WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and WNST.net in the blazing heat of summer on the back end of yet another successful U2 mission around here this summer. I figure I would extend this out. Now, I'm going to tell him that we have a recurring catching up with former Ravens guys and all that stuff as part of our Ravens Legends series here. But the truth is, I just love Mike Flynn, and our continuing 21-year now relationship continues on as his son is on Broadway doing the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory thing, and he continues to talk about sports in the land of Boston at 98.5 The Hub. You can follow his journey, and thousands do, at Flynn985 out on Twitter. We welcome the man, the myth, the legend, the main event back here, and one-time starting center for our Super Bowl champions at Super Bowl 35. And sometimes, Mike Flynn, they forget. They forget the greatness of the 2001 team here. So I figured I'd bring you back in to remind them, man. You're out in Boston. They haven't won a championship there in 6 months. What the hell are they going to do up there?
I know, and people are going crazy.
Right.
It's starting to, people are starting to say, all right, what are we doing here?
We got to have another parade.
Winning some games. I like that. So I'm part of the Legend series. I'm considered a legend. I like that.
Well, I'm just telling you that. Everybody here knows I'm making that up, but I'm just going along with it.
I thought it was just a great intro to the Legend series.
You know what? Anytime I bring an ex-Raven on now, I'm going to say it's part of our Ravens Legends series.
when you get it on, books for tape or CD, it's going to have that great background music,
Right, it's going to feel like NPR or something like that, and then you and I show up and we start talking. First things first, I'll get to baseball. We're going to talk some Red Sox, and I know you're up there talking Patriots off season, and we can go through Celtics, Bruins, all that stuff. But the bottom line for me is you and I were together. We were at Costas Crab House. You brought all your beer buddies down here and all your kids. You took them to see the Ravens play, and your kids got to see that you really did play in the NFL for 11 years and have a ring and all that stuff. But we're sitting there eating crab cakes at Costas and knocking on crabs, and you said something to me. This is like last October. You're like, man, my kid has a chance to be a lead in Broadway, and we think he might actually get this part. And I'm like, do tell. And here we are 8 months later, and I watch you and I watch your wife on Facebook, and I don't know what it would be like to have a 12-year-old kid who's an actor on Broadway, but I would think with the rest of your kids and your brood and your family, this has been quite an interesting 6-month period of time. When I think about your family, your parents sort of selling it all off when you played in the league to be at every game, every weekend, and now you're playing the role of the stage parent, right?
Yeah, I dress the kid up. I get in fights with other parents. That kind of stuff. No, it's been great. My son has done a lot of different things and TV and commercials and all that kind of stuff. And he got this gig in New York, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and it's been great. Obviously for him, the experience, in that type of business, it could be one shot and you're done. But it's been great, and it's been good for the family, though, too. We got a place in New York. We go down and visit. We see the show. We get to hang around in New York. It's actually good for my parents, because they missed the tailgating and all that. Now they go down and babysit my son while we're up here with the other kids. So they go down there, and they're kind of like, I was surprised. My parents are older now, but never having lived in New York City, but they took to it great. So, yeah, it's been fun, obviously. Whenever you see your kid and succeed in something, whether it's, Little League Baseball up to this, it's great. But, yeah, he's got a passion for it. Loves it. The people have been great, and a lot of the benefits, just the fun times, meeting different celebrities and all that kind of stuff. And he's 10 too, so he enjoys it. But
he's
still,
10. He's
still
not 12.
Kid,
he's 10 years old.
10, yeah.
I thought he was like 12 or 13. It seems like he's a little
10,
older, man. He's 10.
He gets a lot of his intelligence and articulation and charisma from me. So that. I don't need to tell you that.
Tell me about the show a little bit, too, because a lot of folks go up to New York, they take buses, they do stuff. I don't even know that unless, I know you were Facebook friends. I don't know that the Ravens have done a story about this yet. But the show just started about 6 weeks ago. In totality, it's like one of these billion-dollar productions, right? It's an incredible...
There's a lot of money, WB, and so there's a lot of money into it, and it's doing well. The reviews, it's more of like, I think it's more like a summer hit, like movie-wise, you know what I mean? It's not the real artsy, make you think. It's fun. It's fun. It's we all know the story, and that's what the story is with their little spin on it. The characters, and obviously Jake B and Charlie, a big part of that show. But yeah, it's done well, and he's having a blast, and he loves it. He loves doing it, and that's the biggest thing is he likes doing it, and he's kind of really growing into the role, and we'll ride this wave as long as we can and see what happens from here.
How long is that commitment? I mean, is he there for the year, for the summer?
Yeah, 6 months to a year. Just depends if they do deal in contracts like all professionals do, and usually 6 months to a year. And a big thing with child actors obviously is the height, and eventually now he's only 10, but there is a kid in the show that's 12, and at some point voices change, and so unlike an adult actor, you could theoretically play a role forever if they want you, you're well, but children eventually grow out of the role, so probably at least a year, which would probably be good for him anyway, and then it would be time to come home, because we do. Like when you have kids, you know how that is. You miss when they're not home, and we do see them, but I don't see them every day, so it's kind of disappointing.
So when he gets home, are the Red Sox going to be in the playoffs this year, Flinner?
I mean, they're playing well now. I mean, it's for a team that has dealt with a lot of injuries, and I think have a lot of holes. Listen, they're tied for first place in a pretty decent division. I think they've been disappointing, and I say that because their starting pitching really, going into the season, you thought would probably be the best, if not one of the better rotations in the league, and Price and Porcello, and they bring in Sale and Eduardo Rodriguez, but, Rodriguez is hurt. He's not I don't know if he's tough, but he's very fragile. And then Porcello and Price just haven't performed. Price is back now after an injury, and he's been okay, and Porcello's been awful, and he won the Cy Young Award. So, listen, they're hanging in there in first place. I still think they make the playoffs, but, at some point they lean heavily on that bullpen. They lean heavily on Kimbrel, who I believe at this point, like 8th and 9th inning saves is the most he's had in his career. And, how long can he keep it going? But, listen, they're in first place. They still have a hole at third base. Price and Porcello figure it out, then, yeah, they're going to make the playoffs.
It's an interesting trading deadline coming up here, Mike. The Yankees sort of sold off last year in the notion that maybe by 18 or 19 they'd be good, and they are way ahead of schedule, and I know they've had a rough week. I mean, they haven't won in a week. But in the case of the Red Sox, in giving chase here and where the trading deadline would be, the Yankees are in a unique position to improve themselves. I don't know that the Red Sox, the Sale deal, I don't know that they're going to be out in the marketplace dealing away more prospects to augment this thing. I think what you see is what you get with the Red Sox to some degree. And there are teams like the Orioles who have Machado out there right now who have to believe that they're in the race, but are they really in the race and they need more pitching? There could be a lot of teams out there looking to deal as we get closer to the end of July. I don't know that the Red Sox are one of them, though.
I think, potentially they've had big issues with third base, and they traded for a reliever from Milwaukee and traded off Travis Shaw, and he's having a great season out in Milwaukee. He won the job, Shaw, last year in spring training, had a pretty decent season, then all of a sudden kind of fell off the cliff, and I think that's why Dombrowski felt that he was a flash in the pan, worth trading off. They bring in a reliever, and he's been hurt all year. He's out for the year. So they do have this gaping hole. They thought Sandoval would wake up and lose weight, and he did lose weight, but he still stinks, and they have guys like Rutledge and Devin Marrero, who's a young player that, Marrero's decent defensively, but nobody can hit, and if you look at the numbers in terms of where they stand in third base and all the sabermetrics and analytics and all that crap, they're not good. So I think that's kind of the one area that may attack at the trade deadline, and certainly would be more along the lines of, like, they mentioned a kid from Kansas City, Moustakis, I believe. Guys that have a year left, or Cabrera, not Melky Cabrera, but somebody else. He's kind of like a free agent. Nobody big name, no big time player for prospects. Just more like a rental. But you're right. I think that's about it because other than that, there's not another big need.
Yeah, for the Red Sox, and I guess the hangover of Ortiz not being there anymore. That takes a period of time to get through that. And Mitch Moreland's having a fine year, but making up for the dramatic, making up for the leadership, and having a guy that's going to hit 40, 45 home runs a year. You don't just have a guy like that disappear and not miss it. And I think, in Boston it was sort of insulated for all that, and everybody believed, well, they got Sale, they'll be fine, they replaced Ortiz. But I think for the first 60, 70 games of the year, he has been missing, and I think it's been very, very obvious. And I know there were even some rumors a couple of weeks ago that he was swinging a bat, right?
Yeah, and that was, obviously the age of Twitter and Instagram that came out and people were excited, but they did. It hurt him more than I thought. I thought they would be fine. I certainly didn't think they'd be as good as they were with Ortiz, but listen, I mean, you had younger guys and Betts and Bogarts, guys that could hit the ball, but eventually they just really don't have that power in the lineup that they had with Ortiz, and they struggled early. I mean, which, for them is not the norm, and they're always one or two in the league in the East, and they struggled. They've been better lately, and Betts is kind of putting up like MVP type of numbers, but they did, 40, 50, 60 games that you mentioned. They struggled with him in the lineup. You didn't really have a guy that, other teams needed to think about, how do you deal with Ortiz? And there's some good hitters, certainly, like Bogarts is a good hitter, but for a while, he had like one double. He had no power, and Moreland's helped him out. I think they're better now than they were 20 games ago, and I think they're going to be pretty good. But certainly, not having him in the lineup is huge. And not to mention, he was a very well liked guy in the clubhouse, which would make sense. He's a hell of a personality. He's a leader, certainly among the fan base here. So, there was a lot of other factors than just his bat that it didn't seem like they handle it well, at least the positional players. But now they're kind of getting their legs a little bit, but at the end of the day, he's irreplaceable. They don't have anybody now, that kind of power and that kind of presence in the lineup. So at some point, eventually, it's still going to hurt him, and we'll see who steps up and how that lineup takes shape.
He is the main event and our Ravens Super Bowl champion from 2001 and Super Bowl 35. We welcome Mike Flynn back onto the program. You can follow his journey out on Twitter as well as that of his child actor, star son, and Charlie in the Chocolate Factory up on Broadway in New York. He's at Flynn985, and that's 98.5, the hub up in Boston, where he does sports radio, taking after his dear friend Nestor Aparicio here in Baltimore. Taught him everything that he knows. And last thing on the Red Sox, Flynn, the Porcello thing. Dude, it's like a Brett Saberhagen thing, right? I mean, he stinks after you give him all the money, comes out and wins a Cy Young the next year, and then he stinks again. In the case of David Price, they gave him all this money. This is, kind of a cautionary tale for buying pitching. And I think we always know half the guys that sign in Boston, and Sandoval and Ramirez and Carl Crawford and other guys who've struggled after being given all the money there. But the Red Sox are only going to go as Price and Porcello take them, right?
Well, I mean, certainly at least Porcello, they gave him a lot of money on what he potentially could do, but he was a younger guy. And the big thing in Boston is, and it has been for a while in terms of pitching, that ownership would never agree to pay 30-plus-year-old pitchers. Well, they finally kind of bit the bullet with Price and gave him $217 million. It's kind of been a disaster. He came in last year, pitched poorly, had a really good run, and then ended poorly. And this year, it's been a mess in terms of getting hurt, big issues in terms of the media, in terms of he feels the way he has been treated hasn't been fair, and, he kind of has a little...
Dude, that's a soft thing to say. You were an athlete, dude, right? You were an athlete at a very, very high level playing a man's game. I don't want to hear him bitching after getting $217 million. All I want to hear him do is, I'm taking the ball and I'm doing my best. But all of this, you guys are scaring me. Come on, dude. You signed in Boston. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Well,
you signed to play for the Red Sox.
I hate to compare like baseball to football, and playing football, it's easy for me to say, well, you would never do this in football. You would never, but I understand the player there is a different mentality. There's a different accountability you're held to. Baseball players, in a general sense, are softer crew than football players. So I kind of look at it from their point of view. They're starting pitchers. They're coddled at times, but And he has. He's had taken some hits up here, and actually I've defended it to a point, but a lot of it's on him. Like, if you're going to be a guy that is going to be on Instagram and Twitter and actually care what the trolls and the people that write you in there, then you're never going to win. I mean, you're on that, I'm on that, and there's always going to be people that have something to say just to say it. And usually it's a small sample size, very small sample size of the people in general, but
that has nothing to do with when you take the ball and go and pitch, really.
But I've come to find he's a very sensitive guy. I think he feels like he wants to be liked, and maybe he feels that he's not pitching well. With all that said, you're right. I mean, I don't understand how hard it is to shelter yourself from talk radio, to shelter yourself from the paper. I mean, just don't listen, don't read. Shut down on Twitter and Instagram. It's not hard to do. So really, you could isolate yourself pretty good. And yeah, of course, you give up 7 runs against the Yankees. You're going to have to answer tough questions after a game. You should do that. You suck it up. That's just the nature of the business, because, if you throw a no-hitter against the Yankees and everybody's blowing smoke up your butt, you're taking those questions. So that's just the way it is. The other stuff, it's on him. Of course, people are harsh. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you, it's a tough environment at times, but, you should be able to shelter yourself. That you get paid to do a job, just go out there and pitch. But to me, he does have an out clause after next season, but I don't know how he would trigger that, because I don't know what kind of money he'd get paid compared to what the Red Sox, but you never know.
Chris Sale things worked out okay, right?
Yes, pretty good. Now he's he's getting paid. He keeps his head down. He's got an attitude, and of course, but he comes here and plays well. And of course, everybody loves the guy, but that's the kind of attitude you need. He's a little different animal. Price isn't in that mold.
What do you make of the Orioles, Flinner? Anything you want to say about kicking them while they're down? We're talking about Machado.
Honestly, they've kind of Showalter kind of bothers me a little bit, but that's just I don't follow them as much as I do the Red Sox. I am upset that they're not playing as well, because I really appreciated the rivalry, and I felt after what happened with, I get it, you don't want guys throwing at each other. That's a little ridiculous, but the last time they played, man, that series and it was so neutered to what it could have been. With Showalter now, I heard him complaining about having to drive down to Washington, that kind of stuff. He just needs a team to get on track, and it's a tough division. They're going to have some trouble.
Hey, Ozzie pulled the rabbit out of the hat with Jeremy Macklin last week. We sat around here for 6 weeks bitching about the post-draft, and we didn't have help for Flacco, and too much pressure on Perryman, and who's going to play center, who's going to play right tackle, who's going to catch the ball. They went out and got Jeremy Macklin. I mean, that's we're all feeling better about the season just on one acquisition last week.
Yeah, I mean, he's had success. I mean, he had a down year last year. I mean, the biggest problem with him, and always will be, is can he stay on the field? And if you look at what he's done, he's put up numbers when he's played, but he's been hurt a lot. But when you need a receiver and you can get the best guy on the market at this time of year, it's a great pickup. And I only think it's going to help. But the key is staying healthy. That's just been a huge problem for him, always has been. But he's a pretty good talent, and you saw when he's healthy and ready to go, he could put up some numbers in an offense really that is not a great offense to put up numbers in.
Flutter, I'm coming up to see the Jakester in the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory thing. I'm just trying to figure out when I'm going to get to New York to do it, and when it combines with a Billy Joel concert or, a dish of Cuban food or something that I can do with you.
There's a Billy Joel concert, I believe.
Every week. It's
the
Garden.
Just saw it. Yeah, I know, but it's like, is it every week? Is he doing that thing?
That's once a month, yeah.
It's like not too far away because I'm thinking about going myself, so yeah.
Really? All right, well.
I love Billy Joel.
I'm
going
to have to take a look at the schedule. You're going to have to tell Mary to continue to put Jake's acting schedule up on her Facebook, because I'm getting tired of asking. She's getting tired of me asking her, but we are going to get up there and see your offspring do the if you want to view paradise, simply look around and you will. So
I think you're going to enjoy it, Nestor.
Of course I'm going to enjoy it. I've never – you're going to spank me, all right? I've never seen a show on Broadway in New York.
Well, I mean, that's not actually, the only reason why I went is when my wife and I first started dating, she lived in New York, and I would take the train up to New York and to see her, and that's the first time I've ever been to a show. So I was 22, probably 23, 24, somewhere in there.
My age, right.
And honestly, yeah, your age. Honestly, though, but I probably would have never gone to one if she didn't live there and there was something to do. So it's not, something you know, if it's not your thing, you don't look like the theater type, but...
No, I acted in the theater when I was a kid, and I've seen a million shows. I actually went to a show in Piccadilly in London 20 years ago. I've been to the Hippodrome here. I went to the McCann. I've seen a billion shows. I've just have never walked into a Broadway theater and plopped down my $200 and seen a show. So the first time in my life I'm going to do that is going to be for your child. So I am looking forward to it, and I'm ready to write the check and pull the visa out. I am going to do that.
So I think you're going to have a good time, and I'm going to tell you, it's a fun atmosphere to be around, and obviously it's the Broadway and the community. There's 4 or 5 theaters on the street, and I think you'll like it. There's a lot of buzz going into some of these shows on the weekend, so I look forward to it. Just let me know.
My favorite all-time picture of you is the picture of your kids signing playbill autographs in front of all the marquee Broadway lights, and you standing there like a bodyguard looking a little annoyed, like, dude, the pizza shop closes in 20 minutes. Let's get out of here with the autographs already.
Well,
right?
I'm hungry, and I'm like, hey, buddy, what are you doing? You can get charged for these someday. Don't give them up too soon,
How long does your son spend signing autographs after every show?
It just depends. I mean, he likes it. Like, the thing about that show, there are a lot of...
He's 10. Of course he likes it.
I know he does. Like, some of the adult actors are like, all right. But you know what I like about it, though? There are a lot of kids and, a lot of kids that are into theater and all that. And they really do. Like, they kind of, like, look up to Jake and they ask him, like, how'd you start? All this kind of stuff. So, even at that young of an age, like, it's crazy. He could have an impact on some of these kids.
Hey, man, you're having an impact on me because it's a lot of fun watching you and growing old with you. And we'll be getting some crabs and some crab cakes, maybe some Billy Joel and maybe the Jakester. I am looking at the schedule. We will rendezvous, and I will only come to New York when you're going to the show with me, okay?
Sounds good.
Love you, Flinner. Be good. Say hello to Mary.
Buddy.
All right, buddy.
Take care.
There he goes, Mike Flynn, Flynn985 out on Twitter, and our one-time and all-time Ravens Super Bowl champion center from Super Bowl 35, Mike Flynn, doing the Boston sports radio thing, doing the New York Charlie and the Chocolate Factory acting thing with his son Jake, who's pretty cool. So there's a great story for you. You can find me out in the Bayou Toyota Audio Vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn Radio app. We do come in crystal clear from anywhere in the world, from wherever you are. Nasty at WNST.net finds me. Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, and streaming live, as well as the Peter Principles, now out in Chapter 6 at WNST.net. I am Nestor. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.